Well, hello, Bonita here, the scrappy grandma, and just an update. I've decided that it's not even worth me trying to put myself together to be on camera, so it's just going to be raw, real, and who I am, because my life has become just so busy with preparation for my dad coming. Yeah, it just and you know what? Raw, real, and who I am is what's important anyway. So, um. Sadly, Medicare has denied him his continued stay in the facility, the physical therapy facility he was in. We've appealed it twice, denied twice. We're not sure where he's going to go until we can get him out here. So we're working on that. I'm working with my cousin that I've never met. So a bit of a backstory on all of this. When my mother and my biological father, who is the one moving out here, Michael, um, they were teenagers-ish, and they were young adults, and they were dating. Nothing really more than that. And when she found out that she was pregnant with me, he went into the Navy. And a couple months later, she married another man who, until I was 14, I thought he was my dad. He was my brother's father. My brother was born a couple years later. And my whole family, oh, got to put it on pause. I'm getting a phone call. It might be important. Sorry. Okay. So, yeah, I guess I was conceived in the back seat of a car. But anyway, and she married Garn, who I thought was my dad. And then when I was 14, a girlfriend and I were looking through family pictures, and there was a picture of my mom in her wedding dress holding me as a baby. And I was like, why would she put her wedding dress on just to take a picture of us together? And my girlfriend's like, duh, Juanita. And I was like, oh, no. Okay. So, and that's back in the 70s where, still it was, nowadays, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but back in the 70s, it was a big deal. So, I confronted her. It was not pretty. And I was told several different things, that he was killed in Vietnam, he was a race car driver and he was killed in a race car accident, and that was that. Um, so, you know, sadly, I was 14 and that's when I really started to rebel. I just felt like, man, my whole family lied to me my whole life. I can't trust anybody. Sadly, that has been something that I've had to deal with my whole life is trust and trusting the people closest to you because I felt so betrayed and felt like I couldn't trust anybody because nobody let me know truth. And I had to find it out for myself and fight for it and still didn't get full truth. Anyway, fast forward, the internet came out, in the 90s. And when I was 36 years old, I can't do the math to know what year that was, but um, I thought, I'm going to search for him, USPeopleSearch.com. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a search for him. And I put the information in I had, and it didn't come up with anything. So I was like, okay, oh well. And then the strangest thing happened within the next couple of years is I found an envelope. Had never seen it before. To this day, have no idea how it got there or where it came from, but it had my original baptismal with his name and my original birth certificate. Catholic, we were baptized, at birth, infants. But it had my original birth certificate with his name on it and his occupation, his full name and his occupation. So went back to US People Search, put all that information in, and there was a match. And he lived in Southern California, and he was an attorney, and he lived in Dana Point, which is a really nice area of Southern California. I went down to meet him. We got to know each other. He got to know his grandkids. He came to Tyler's Marines boot camp graduation, became part of the kid's life somewhat. He lived 6 hours away. And then through the years, we, we talked maybe twice a year. We didn't really connect much and didn't talk much. And, he had his life and I had mine and so on and so forth. Um, till now, fast forward to this. He didn't have any other children. I was his only child. And so, you know, this is what we're doing now. It's like, okay, Father, well, I get an opportunity to finally get to know my father. So, and he gets an opportunity to get to know me and my children and his grandchildren, his great grandchildren. So, I mean, he got to know Lacey. Like Lacey was probably 7 or so when she first met him. So anyway, so now like, he went to move, he was living in Southern California until July of this year. And then we went down, his sister had invited him to move out to North Carolina for them to live together, to be companions, as they grew older. He also had been going through radiation treatment for prostate cancer. And so we went down. He was getting his last radiation treatments. They said that, within 2 or 3 weeks, he should be feeling back to normal after the radiation treatments. Things should be fine. And so we packed him up, shipped everything back to North Carolina, and he went back there. And, his health just, hasn't done well. And his sister, she's 82, he's 84, and she has her own health issues. And so a lot of this has fallen on my cousin, this cousin I've never met before, my cousin Stacy, who I've becoming very good friends with, and I can't wait to actually meet her and spend some time together. She has been taking care of both her mother and my dad. And so we're slowly shifting things off of her plate onto my plate, so that I can pick up and she can just focus on her own mom and I can take care of him. It's just the logistics of him being in North Carolina currently and in a physical therapy facility. But like I said, now Medicare's denied us twice. I think it's Medicare, maybe it's his United Healthcare. I'm not sure. That's the stuff I need to get into the nitty gritty with, is find out, like, what I need to get his Medicare and all of his information so I can start taking over and find out, what we have available to us, what he has available to him. And in that, on our end here, we're emptying out several of our rooms. We're going to be making a about 6 to 8 foot wide doorway in between his bedroom and the bathroom so that there's easy access in case he falls, because he's a major fall risk. And that's what ended up happening. Somehow, at some point, he fractured his sacrum, which is where the hips, attach to the bottom spine. And so that's why he's been in pain. That's why he's been a fall risk and having the challenges that he's having. But his time's up, and that's how insurances go. So I've got to start digging into that. I've got to talk to his case manager out there. And then we need to start ordering, like, and I'm so thankful that the Father has brought people just out of the woodwork for Rusty and I, just boom, 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 boom. One of my best friends, she called me this morning after watching the last video in this playlist, the first video in this playlist, and she's like, her parents live with her, and her father, his health is not the greatest. And so she's like, okay, you're going to need a thing for the toilet, and you're going to need this, and you're going to need that, and all the things. And she's helping me. And a medical bed, a hospital bed, and, a wheelchair and a walker. And I got to get a hold of Medicare to see what they cover with all of those things. I've got like these lists upon lists of, things I've got to take care of. Plus, he needs to get in to see an orthopedic about the fracture so that that can heal, so that he can be well enough to travel. Just so happens, instead of us having to fly out to North Carolina to pick him up, it looks like my cousin, who's his niece, her niece, so it must be one of her sister's children, daughter, adult, uh, her and her boyfriend are going to be flying out to visit and then flying back to Southern California at the end of next month. And they're going to be bringing, if all goes well, his 2 cats and him back on the plane. And we just have to drive to Los Angeles to pick him up instead of flying out to get him. So things, it's beautiful because Rusty keeps saying, look at the Father, what he's doing. Look, he's been putting things together for the last 6 months to get us ready for this. And he really has been. So Yes, that's where we're at today, trying to get a hold of the case manager, try to take care of the whole Medicare, what he's entitled to. He still needs some more time in this facility, but so we've got to make sure, does he get out and then go back in under a new case? Those are the things I need to work out and figure out with him. Then plus, buying the bed, buying the chairs, buying all the just little things that we're going to need to help take care of him. And it was so beautiful because as I'm packing up the kids' room, which is going to be his room, my grandkids' room, I was putting together a tote with all of their games in it. And Kai, our oldest, he's 10, he loves to play chess. And I thought, how exciting and fun will it be? I got to plug in my computer. There, battery plugged in. Are you working? How? Oh, yeah. Okay, whatever. Wrong one. So how cool will it be, for Kai to come over and play chess with his grandpa, his great grandpa? Pretty cool. So, things like that. I just think it's going to be really beautiful. So anyway, yeah, just really kind of wanted to come in and like I said, I just kind of want to capture this all, I want to share this because in talking to my physical therapist came over. She actually just went through this with her own father, prostate cancer that metastasized to the bone, the radiation, and all of the things. So she's been a wealth of knowledge in where to go locally to buy the things that he's going to need and that, go through Medicare. They'll pay for some of it, things like that. So, like I said, the Father has just been providing over and over and over and over again for this. And so, all praise and glory to Him. And I guess that's why I want to share it. It's, like I said, titled this Walking in the Way, walking in His way, walking the straight and narrow path, and how we do this in real life, in real time, with real challenges and real problems. And, you know, I have to say, I'm terrified. And just like Joshua and Caleb, I'm sure were terrified when they saw the giants and and the fortified cities, but they still trusted that the Most High was going to do as He promised, and that's take care of them and, keep His promises. And so that's what we're doing. Like I said, it's terrifying. I'm afraid he's going to get here and not like it, because he's used to living in the city and affluent, and we're a little country house in the middle of nowhere. So it's going to be interesting. And so I'm just inviting all of you along for the ride. If any of you have resources, if you've been through this, if you know and so whatever, or if you're looking and facing something similar, contact. Let's talk because I'm finding that community, and we're supposed to be one together as a family, walking through life with one another. So let's link up arms. Let's come together. Pray for us. We'll pray for you if you let us know what's going on in your world. And let's just glorify the Most High with how He, in His sovereignty, how He sanctifies us and brings things about in our lives. So I'm going to sign off for now because I got tons of phone calls, and I have in a half hour, I have a new moon call with our Bible study ladies about the new moon that's coming up because interestingly, I found out that the new moon literally has, God is so good. They have themes and and it's so closely tied into what's really going on in life. So I've got that new moon call at 1 o'clock. I'm waiting for a call back from his case manager, and then I've got to get his insurance information and just all the things. So thanks for coming along on the ride with me. Be blessed, and y'all willing, I'll be talking to you soon.